implement enhanced cleaning and disinfection procedures using EPA-approved supplies. We must document COVID awareness training and risk reduction strategies. We must develop a police notification policy in the event of non-compliance with social distancing or other New Jersey Department of Health regulations. We must implement a policy for temperature readings of all staff and attendees entering the facility. We must designate, limit, and stagger access to entry points to avoid congregation. We must post signage at entry points that patrons should be on the alert for signs of illness and stay home when they have symptoms. We have to reduce capacity to a maximum of 71 individuals at any one time. We must provide sanitizer stations throughout the pool facility. We must require routine cleaning and disinfecting of frequently touched surfaces several times daily. We must require cleaning and disinfecting after each use of shared items like railings, lifeguard stands, life jackets, life-saving equipment, medical supplies, and equipment. We must prohibit the sharing of furniture and equipment provided to patrons for use by the pool facility, including but not limited to chairs, umbrellas, towels, and other equipment. We must allow patrons to use their own water play equipment. Staff and patrons are encouraged to wear a cloth face covering while not in the pool when social distancing of 6 feet cannot be maintained. We should supply the staff with face coverings and gloves. We must implement measures to ensure 6-foot social distancing on the pool deck and while in the water. We must separate and space apart all benches and tables to encourage social distancing. We must control crowd flow using visible markings, postings, or signage. Tables or other equipment tables or other equipment which impede social distancing should be removed or restricted. We must post signage indicating the following. Face coverings are strongly encouraged but should not be worn in the water. Hands should be washed frequently with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is at least 60% alcohol. Do not touch your face with unwashed hands. Stay home if you are sick. Practice social distancing to avoid large gatherings. The board, we've met and we've talked about a number of these items here over the past few weeks. We discussed the possibility of trying to use volunteers for some of the positions described above. Stephen, can you tell us about what are the ramifications if we use volunteers in the event that a lawsuit is filed against us?
Typically, I don't think I've seen your insurance policy, but typically insurance policies for your type of organization covers volunteers, but that's not the answer to your question. Anything having to do with pandemic or viruses is typically policy exclusion. There's no insurance coverage for it. So the idea of using volunteers as opposed to using paid employees doesn't help you unless using a paid person vendor has some sort of special pandemic insurance under which you could become an additional insured.
I see. One other question. If we use volunteers to do some of the social distancing or something like that, can the volunteers be sued, by some attorney who decides to sue?
Sure, they can, but they would be named in the lawsuit, so we would be required to defend them with association funds if they were acting on our behalf.
Okay, so we would have to defend them. Okay. Now, the New Jersey Department of Health regulations state that we have to train people to clean and sanitize. Would we really have to clean and sanitize? And, if we don't teach these people how to clean and sanitize, would we have some legal liability there? I mean, it seems almost, silly. You got to train somebody how to clean.
Well, it may be silly, but if you're training the people, you assume the duty, you're the one that's going to get sued for negligence. If you retain a vendor and the contract requires the vendor to comply with the COVID guidelines, you've delegated that liability elsewhere.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's a cost component to it that's very expensive, but that's as long as once you assume a duty, then you have to. Your duty is not to act negligently. So you can't. I wouldn't agree that you could have volunteers and then say, well, the regulations require us to clean the pool, but we're not going to bother. That's not going to be a defense.
Mm-hmm.
Until the state or the federal government enacts some sort of immunity provision for homeowners associations, we're exposed.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. All right, that answers the question. Trustees, do you have any other questions regarding this particular item to Stephen? Okay, let me go on with the next item here.
I have a question.
Yes, Bets.
How can anyone prove, if we keep everybody outside and don't use the clubhouse, how possible is it for someone to prove they got COVID in our pool area?
Let me answer that question two ways. The lawyer's answer is, as long as they can find an expert who'll testify that they have qualifications in the area of epidemiology, and they testify under oath that they got the COVID in your clubhouse, that's how they prove their case. Let me answer the question the commonsensical method. Unless you've been locked in your house for the last 14 months, and the only place you ever went was to the pool once, and you got COVID 4 days after you were at that pool, you've got a very poor case. I agree with you. The proofs are terrible, but that doesn't avoid the lawsuit or the defense costs. In other words, you may win the lawsuit because they can't prove your case, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be out of pocket counsel fees.
I understand.
What are we
Now,
talking?
what if we
I
don't-
agree with you. I think the proofs are terrible. I agree with you. If you've been to the grocery store or you've been out of your house at all in the last 14 months, obviously, how do you tell where you got COVID from? I mean, you go into a restaurant and the restaurant's non-smoking, okay, and they put up a plastic barrier between your table and the next table. Can you ask the waiter now, can I smoke? Does the plastic barrier protect me from smoking? If it protects me from viruses? Of course not, because all the air gets mixed.
Right.
So I agree with you. The proofs are awful, but until it's settled in the courts, we're exposed here.
Isn't Stephen? This is Jeff Dyer.
Hi, Jeff.
From how you doing? Also, what I've heard, or through some different law firms, is that the lawsuits, some of them that are pending, were not only about just that number one issue that you discussed, but the second part of it is that the lawsuits were, stating that wherever they were, the restaurant, the gym or the pool, that the guidelines by the state from the standpoint of cleaning, from a standing.
Hold on, I can't. Could you repeat that? Somebody was talking over you for a second.
Yeah.
Say that again. The last sentence.
From the standing of cleaning, that the lawsuits were saying that whatever the organization was in this situation, association, or whatever the restaurant was, that they didn't adhere to the cleaning policies of the state and were suing in that direction.
That would be a breach of duty. In other words, if you assume the duty to comply with the COVID guidelines yourself, meaning the association, and then you don't comply with those guidelines, that's evidence of negligence. So basically, you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar. In other words, let's suppose you've been hit by a car on the side of the road, and I agree to pick you up and take you to the hospital, and then I drive at 150 miles an hour and hit a pole. I didn't have to pick you up. I could have called an ambulance. But once I drive 100 miles an hour, I'm negligent. I've assumed a duty and I've acted negligently. That's where you're crossing the line.
Now, Stephen, you had
In other words, if you're going to run everything yourself, you have to comply with the guidelines. That's the short answer.
Yeah. And Stephen, you had mentioned, if we're involved in a lawsuit, one of the big problems is we have to pay the costs associated with defending that lawsuit. Can you give us some idea what are we talking about in far as how much it would cost us just to defend a lawsuit, even if we won?
Well, there's no simple answer to that. I mean, if you won a motion early on in the case to dismiss the case, you might get out for $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000. But if you have to go to trial, I'm sure you're looking north of $50,000 or $100,000.
And that's if we win.
Don't forget, it's not just legal fees. It's the cost of experts, to hire experts to testify on your behalf, the cost of depositions, where you have a court reporter present and witnesses' testimonies taken under oath, the cost of getting medical records to look at the medical background of each individual involved. It goes on and on and on. Besides, currently with the COVID situation, the lawsuits are backing up by the tens of thousands. So you're looking at years in court.
Are there a lot of lawsuits, regarding COVID, in this situation?
I don't know how many personal injury COVID suits there are yet, but I do know that there are about 100 pending lawsuits by insureds against insurers demanding coverage for claims. In other words, they're suing their own insurance company saying, you have to cover us for this loss, and the exclusions don't apply. With the exception of one case I saw in Pennsylvania where the court ruled in favor of the insured, most of these cases are getting dismissed.
Mm-hmm. But they still
Meaning
have to pay
the
to
insured
defend them.
is losing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they still have to pay to defend them, and it could be 50 to 100,000 or so.
Well, it's not just the defense costs. Yet, what if you lose the case and there's a verdict?
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. Okay, trustees, do you have any other questions regarding this particular item to Stephen? Okay, the next item I want to cover is what other senior associations are doing regarding their pools. So,
Well,
over the
I have done a number of waivers for associations to have anybody who wants to go in the pool sign them. They're not the strongest document in the state of New Jersey, but it's better than nothing, where the person says, I'm swimming in the pool at my own risk and I'm not going to sue the association. I emailed one to you for Seaview if the board wants to adopt it.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I see waivers signed for all sorts of sports activities and other activities all over the state, even though the courts are not fond of them. But you do have one thing in your favor, and that is you can adopt a bylaw that bars your members, and this requires a formal bylaw amendment, that bars your members from suing the association.
Yes,
There's a statute that talks about that. Yes, but a lot of associations don't like to adopt that, but I have some associations that have it already in their bylaws. That doesn't protect you from a third-party claim. In other words, if I'm a homeowner there and my grandchild's visiting me, and I go to the pool and the grandchild gets COVID, that bylaw doesn't protect you against the grandchild's claim, only against my claim.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think that's probably something we'll want to talk to you about, a little later on. Right now, I want to talk about what other senior communities are doing so that the people have some idea as to what other communities are doing. So over the they're retaining pool operators, licensed pool operators, and they're farming out all these duties to the pool operators, and the pool operators are doing the regulatory compliance. Mm-hmm.
Now, some people have just not opened their pools. Some people have opened their pools with no pool operator and just running it themselves and saying the heck with it. I mean, you pretty much have every flavor. Last year, almost no one opened their pools, and there was a lot of pushback. This year, I think there's going to be a lot more pressure to open the pools as things lighten up, hopefully. But I'm not. It makes me nervous to run the operation ourselves and not comply with every single requirement of the Department of Health.
Yeah.
I'd rather have an outside pool operator and make sure they comply with it and let them handle all the headaches and not us.
Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent advice. Over the past year, I've spoken with all of the senior communities in and around Brick a number of times. All of these conversations have revolved around opening the pool and their clubhouses. Between April 1st and April 10th of this year, I called 13 of the 14 senior communities in Brick and spoke with representatives of and board members from the Holiday City Coalition. This coalition represents 20 Holiday City communities in Toms River and the surrounding communities. Of these 33 senior associations that I spoke with since April 1st, 6 intend to open their pool this year. The other 24, or the other 27, I'm going to do the math there, will be closed. Of the 6 that intend to open, all of them have indicated that they have tort immunity clauses in their bylaws. Also, of the 6 who intended to open, 3 of them indicated that they will have bathers or attendees sign waivers before they enter the pool area. Once our board found out about this, we spoke to our attorney regarding an amendment to our bylaws giving us tort immunity and about the possibility of having people sign a waiver. Stephen recommended that we have a conference call, when we suggested this. And on April 15th, we did have that conference call. After considering the information provided by Stephen, the board voted at that time not to open the pool at this point. However, we wanted to have this meeting to get some additional feedback from our attorney, Stephen, and to get some feedback from the community. And if Stephen is recommending that we have tort immunity, maybe the board can, at the conclusion of the meeting, talk about whether or not we want to have Stephen go ahead and draw up the documents to give us tort immunity. So, Stephen, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, if we have nothing on that, the next item I want to talk about are the costs associated with opening the pool.
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
Hank Lay here. Did you see a message from Stephen 30 seconds ago saying he cannot hear you?
I did not, no. Thank you. I guess, Stephen, you're no longer on the call, are you? I do see his name up here, but maybe that's his static when he tries to talk.
I want to hit his mute button again.
Yeah. Stephen, can you hear us?
He says he can no longer hear us on the chat.
Well, I hope he logs in again. I'm going to go on with these costs associated with opening the pool, and then hopefully Stephen will be able to log back in. So these are the costs associated with opening the pool. In the past, our pool has been open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. Candlewood has supplied us with lifeguard and maintenance services at a cost of approximately $25,000 per year, plus $3,000 in maintenance cost. They did this for the entire season, which lasted from May 31st through September 6th. For the 2021 season, Candlewood sent us a contract where they will provide us with lifeguard and maintenance services at a cost of $17,000 for the season.
What?
However, their contract indicates that their season will last from July 1st through September 6th. In addition, lifeguards will be provided 7 days a week, but only from noon through 4 o'clock. In addition, we need to provide ambassador services to take the temperatures of attendees as they enter the facility, log in who is entering and leaving the facility and at what time, and ensure that people are social distancing as per state and federal regulations. A company by the name of Brooktree can provide us with this service at a cost of $9,000 for the season. In addition, we would need to pay a cleaning service to clean and sanitize the pool area and bathrooms if we provide bathroom facilities. I estimate the cost to be around $3,000 for the season. Originally, the board had talked about not providing bathroom services, but it's been brought to my attention that you need to provide bathroom facilities at least for the use of the lifeguards on duty, because they may live 45 minutes away, and if they've got to use the men's room or the bathroom, it could take them an hour and a half, and during that time, the pool would be closed, which wouldn't be a good thing.
What about the portos, John? Did we discuss that?
We did discuss that,
Yeah.
and Bob Froelich got a price, and I think he said the price was $255 per month, which is quite reasonable. But then it might cost us some additional for the cleaning facility. They would have to clean that at least once a day, or if not after every time someone used it. In addition to those expenses, we'd have to hire, train, or arrange training for and equip the following personnel: a certified pool director, a COVID transport person, and a COVID point of contact person. I'm not really sure what any of these services are, but in the New Jersey Department of Health guidelines, it says that you have to have these 3 individuals. Now, Stephen, can you tell us about the legal liability? Oh, you had mentioned about the legal liability of using volunteers, but you're saying that we would have to have a certified pool director as dictated in these guidelines, along with the COVID transport person and the point of contact person? Stephen, are you on yet?
I'm not saying you have to as a matter of law. I'm saying it's much easier to maintain compliance because the volunteers, you can't compel them to do what they're supposed to do, whereas if you have a contract with a licensed pool operator, you can contract for it.
Yeah.
And then you have an enforceable agreement with a third-party vendor.
I see. So you would suggest that we hire some sort of third-party vendor to take over these positions?
That's the pools that I have that are open, that opened last year. That's what they did. They went with a certified pool operator.
We see that.
I mean, who's going to supervise this, and who's going to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do?
That's exactly the problem. Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
John, I spoke with my girlfriend who lives at Greenbrier 2,
Yes.
and they are definitely going to open their pool, and they are going to use volunteers.
Yeah, I did speak with Greenbrier 2. Greenbrier 1 is opening. Greenbrier 2 is opening. Both of them have tort provisions in their bylaws.
Okay.
And
Did we send out that letter yet?
No. After we spoke to Stephen, we spoke to Stephen about setting up the waiver and the tort agreement. But I think after his meeting, and we were, feeling, I'm not so sure I want to open the pool. I don't know if he continued with that. Stephen, did you continue writing up that resolution for the tort immunity?
No.
Okay. Maybe we'll have you do
And by the way, you can't, hold on. It's not a resolution. It's a bylaw amendment. You have to hold a meeting and adopt it.
Yes. Now, do
Yeah,
we do
we
that?
know that.
Do we do that first, or I thought the procedure was first we get the resolution, then we vote on it, and then we have to send it out as per the Radburn law. Maybe if you could give us
The board can act by resolution, but if you want it binding on the members, you have to adopt the bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah, we know that.
Now, would we have to adopt the resolution first, or can we do it after we get the bylaw adoption from you?
We could draft the bylaw and just put it out pursuant to the Radburn regs to have a vote of the members.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So we want to draft that bylaw first and then send it out. The board does not have to vote on all. We just send it out as per the Radburn amendment.
Right.
Okay. At the conclusion of this meeting, we'll talk board as to whether or not we want Stephen to go ahead and draft that bylaw amendment. The final thing I want to talk about is the insurance situation regarding the pool. And Stephen touched on this in the beginning, but I spoke with our insurance agent, John Denley, and unfortunately, the insurance situation has not changed at all. Our insurance company and practically every insurance company out there have exclusionary clauses stating that they do not cover any events related to a pandemic. In addition, unfortunately, there are no policies that we can buy that would limit our pandemic exposure or cover us in the event of a COVID-related lawsuit. So, of course, our insurance agent is recommending that we do not open the pool. And, and Stephen, does your recommendation still stand? Do you think we should not open the pool?
That's the only way you can insulate yourself from that liability that I can see. Unless and until there's legislation to the contrary. There's an attempt by the Community Associations Institute to introduce legislation in the state legislature to create some immunity, but it hasn't gone anywhere so far.
Yeah.
Now, Stephen, what if we had people who have that double shot and they have their little card that says they got the double shots? Can we just have it limited to that type of person?
Well, if you're going to open the pool, I would certainly recommend that everybody shows the COVID card with either the 2 shots of Moderna or 2 shots of Pfizer or 1 shot of J&J. And then
Right.
you're going to have a lot of people who either don't want to take this shot or haven't gotten the shot yet, complaining that you're discriminating against them. Well, obviously, there's a large chunk of people, thankfully, mostly not, usually doesn't include most seniors. Most seniors are getting their shots. But I was much more comfortable after I got mine. And
Right.
if you want to exclude people that can't or won't get the shots, okay, you still have to police that. But you could also create a registry where they show up with their card. You take a photocopy of it, and you know who's okay to go into the pool. But then somebody's going to have to be at the pool gate to sign them in, sign them out. Do you
Yeah.
sign
I'm
in
getting
now?
some volunteers.
Yeah. Yeah. So we could have, if we turn away people because they haven't been vaccinated or don't have their card, I mean, I would think that we'd be risking a lawsuit, discrimination lawsuit. Is that the case?
Don't forget, none of these vaccines, even the ones that are successful, have final FDA approval. They're all under emergency use approval.
But I mean, if we tell somebody, if somebody says, "Oh no, I wasn't vaccinated. I don't, for religious purposes, I don't get vaccines, or I don't really think it works, so I didn't get it." Can we say, "Okay, well, sorry, you're not allowed in the pool, even though you own a home here in Seaview Village"? Can we do that?
I think you're inviting litigation that hasn't been settled yet. Especially now that we're still in emergency use. I don't think you can compel somebody to get a vaccine in order to access the common area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alrighty.
Can't they sue us just by by saying they have 2 shots and they want to go into their pool? Can't they sue us just for that?
Sure.
I'm saying,
What happens if they want to? What happens if they want to bring a guest that only has 1 shot or no shots?
No guests.
Yeah, we
No
had talked
guests.
about not allowing any guests or any children at all.
Well, I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Stephen, how long do you think it would be before, if you started tomorrow, let's say, we'll give you the rest of the afternoon off, working on this amendment for us for this tort exclusion, and we acted on it promptly when you got it to us, how long do you think it would be before that takes effect?
Well, you have to comply with the Radburn regs, okay?
Yes.
So you're looking probably at a 30 or 45-day window for compliance.
Uh-huh.
And assuming you had enough votes, once you counted the ballots, if it passes, then you sign it, send it back to me, and I record it. I can record it in a matter of days. But the Radburn regs have certain notice requirements that are strict. You have to give everybody notice. You have to give everybody copies of the bylaw. They have to be able to respond, that sort of thing.
Okay, so maybe you're talking maybe 50 days or so, 50 to
Yes.
60 days perhaps?
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
how long would it take you, Stephen, to write the tort?
Right to what?
The
The
amendment,
tort, or the whatever you want to call
the
it,
amendment.
the amendment.
I can do that in a matter of days. It's not that complicated.
Okay.
Okay. So if we got it out within a week, then you'd be approximately 50 days after that.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you allow electronic voting or any kind of virtual voting, or do you do everything with paper?
Everything in the past has done with paper. We have never,
Yeah.
our bylaws were drawn up in 1906, before, email was even available. So everything is paper.
Well, you're going to have to allow for the postal service then too, because that's been a disaster lately.
Right.
So it looks like that it would not be effective until perhaps the middle of July at the earliest.
Well, if you look at the Radburn regs, if you look at the section, there's a section on amending your bylaws.
Yeah.
It talks about how much time you have to add up all the different time limitations
Right.
and total them up. And that's what your minimum number of days is going to be.
Yeah.
And you also have to give people time to receive the ballot, fill it out, and mail it back,
Yeah.
which you have no control over.
Right. So if we say 5 days sending it out, 5 days getting it back, they have to have 30 days to make the decision. So that's 40 days there, and maybe 5 days for the board to decide, and then 5 days for you to do it. That's 50 days. So that puts us, right around,
Happy Labor Day.
right around July at the earliest. Okay. And, so that takes care of everything that I want to say. Now, how about people who are listening in? What are your comments, thoughts, or do you have questions?
Don,
Yes.
Jim Hogan.
Hey, Jim.
I attended a Zoom meeting of the Senior Advisory Board with Mayor Ducey this morning. The town, of course, has no comment on opening the pool or anything like that. It sounds like they don't want to get involved. However, the other villages all are looking to open up their clubhouse and their pools. To this end, only one so far, I think it was Wedgwood, I'm not sure if that's one, but they are actively involved in the procedure with the state to open up the pool and the clubhouse. One thing to bear in mind too, with the pool, the furniture. You cannot have the furniture unless you space it out.
Yes, and Jim,
Okay.
to that end, when the board met, we talked about, we are not going to put out the chairs that we have. We would require everyone to bring their own chairs.
Right. Okay.
One of my clients is doing that. They're requiring you bring your own chairs, no club chairs.
And what I am trying to get at, all the villages want to converse on this, but they don't know where to go and how to go, etc., like that.
Yes.
Perhaps it would be good to contact each one now and see if they have a new viewpoint or direction that they're going to go with this thing. Okay.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I don't know, maybe you weren't on the call at that time. I called 13 of the 14 associations here in Brick between April 1st and April 10th. Now, granted, a lot of things could have changed over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and several did say that they were considering it at that time. In fact, at that time, there were only 4 that were considering open, and now, as of this morning, I called several others, and 2 more are talking about opening. Lions Head North and Lions Head South.
Yes.
So there's
Correct.
six right now that are opening. And yes, in fact, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And Lions Head South and Lions Head North said, well, we have the tort immunity, and we're just hoping that things don't go poorly for us. They're
Yeah,
basically rolling the dice.
As we get into the warmer weather, of course, there is more pressure by the residents
For sure.
to go ahead with this. So the only thing, like I wanted to contribute, I think keeping in touch with the other villages would probably help us to form a better idea or opinion as to where we should go on it. Thank you.
Very good. Jim, I thank you so much for your input. You know, like I said earlier, you know, I have been in touch with these other brick communities throughout the year, and but my most recent data is as of 2 weeks ago now, and then I did speak to 2 more this morning. So yes, we are in touch, and you know, the ones that are opening, they all have those tort exclusions, and but still, you know, they realize that it's a bit of a crapshoot, but they're just saying, well, with the tort exclusion and with the waivers, 3 of them say they're going to have waivers. I guess they're figuring that we probably won't get sued. And, you know, that is one way to go. But now, Ed, or Stephen, one other thing. If we go and we have an ambassador for checking people in, we get a cleaning service to do the cleaning that's mandated by the state agency, and if we do get sued, can they, right now, we don't have tort immunity, so they can sue the association, but can they sue the board members? Can they, you know, what's the extent of the suing they can do?
They can sue everybody. Anybody with $250, a pencil, and a piece of paper can sue everybody. But by the way, let's look at the worst case scenario. If you get sued and there's a judgment entered against you, let's just pick a round number. Let's say it's $50,000 judgment is entered against you.
Okay.
You'd be liable for your defense costs and the judgment, which means there'd have to be a special assessment on all the homeowners to contribute to pay off the judgment.
Okay.
So that's what it boils down to, because it's an uninsured loss. So you're going to pay you're all going to share in that loss, win or lose.
Okay, so they couldn't sue me personally as a board member, you know, for, you know, an extra $50,000. I would just be grouped in with every other homeowner here.
Well, they might sue you personally. I'm not going to tell you no.
Oh, come on.
Now, do we have any other questions or comments from the people who are listening in?
How do I register? I want to ask a question. How would I do that?
Just go ahead and speak up.
Okay. I mean, from what I've heard so far, it just seems to me, I mean, the pool is a wonderful thing, but with the preparation and expense and the risk of a possible lawsuit, there are a lot of people living in this village who are under minimal budgets right now. You could put somebody completely out of their home and at risk because of some fool that wants to register a complaint and sue everybody around. My point is there is too much risk in terms of what the reward is. That's my feeling on it.
What is your name? What is your name, sir?
My name is Bob Alpern.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, my name is Pat Sargent, and
Okay.
I'm at a point that I've owned here. It'll be 7 years in October. 5 years I didn't live down here. I've only lived down here 1 year. I, for one, am definitely for the pool. I am getting a little upset sitting here about the lawsuits. I'd also like to know how long Stephen has been the lawyer for the board, because I also came from an association and we put bids out for lawyers as well and found it a little less expensive to have them per diem. So I see a lot of different things that my board did that isn't happening here. I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm very upset, like with this whole presentation. I too agree there's only 37 people on this chat or Zoom, and I think it should be made known in the public, and we should all be able to sit and listen and hear this, be it in the evening. It's too big of a situation.
In answer to that final, in answer to your final question, you know, I had several people on about April 1st, when we first sent out the notice, asking if we could have it in the evening or at some other time. So I take the full blame for setting the meeting when we did, because all of our meetings between the board, our work sessions and everything over the past year and a quarter since COVID have been in the afternoon. And when I called Stephen's secretary to say, okay, we want to have Stephen in on the call, when can we do this? His secretary said morning or afternoon. And without thinking, I just said afternoon. So I take full responsibility for it not being in the evening. But after several people mentioned that to me, and I realized, in the past we've had them at 6:30 at night, I did talk to Jeff, the president of our association, and talk to him about possibly recording this call. And then he's going to email me that recording, and I'm going to make an effort to either put it up on our website or perhaps put it on YouTube so that people can look at the meeting through at their own convenience.
Okay, and I do appreciate that. But as I said, the only thing we've heard today are lawsuits, lawsuits, lawsuits. I've spoken to 2 or 3 people from Leisure Village. They're being open. They're having open meetings. Lions Head North was open last year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be open again this year. So there's more than the 6 that you've mentioned. Pheasant Run and
that's not,
Orchid River is opening as well. And if you'd like me, I can go out and try to find out all the pools that are opening. Murphy has relaxed a lot of the laws.
Yes, over
And
the last 2 days.
you cannot be sued for everything. Every time I go in the store, I cannot turn around and sue someone. I think it's a good thing for you to have volunteers within the community so that the people start to get to know one another and appreciate one another, appreciate what you're doing as a board. Listening to this whole thing, this whole meeting, have found it just very negative. I remember Jeff Dwyer saying in January the pool was not going to be opened. And I can remember getting off of that meeting and saying, how can he say that in January? Now Murphy has relaxed all of his laws. All these other associations aren't worried about being sued, or if they are sued, I do go along with the waivers and everything like that. We can be sued walking down the street.
True.
Somebody can hit me in here and we can be sued. I mean, the board is supposed to work for the people to see what they would like, I think. As I said, I hope if I'm being too verbal, but I'm just sitting here, and as I said, there's not a chance between what I'm hearing with money and with this and that, and you can be sued, and if I volunteer, they're going to sue me, and it's just sue, sue, sue.
Pat, I had mentioned over the past year, I've talked to every senior community here in Brick, and Leisure Village is in Lakewood. They're not in Brick. But I'm sure, as big as they are, they have a tort agreement. Lions Head North, they have tort agreement. Lions Head South, they're working on finalizing their tort agreement. The 6 that are open here in Brick all have tort agreements or are working on getting tort agreements.
So let's do that.
But that's what we're just talking to our attorney about, setting up a tort amendment for us. However, as I've spoken to, I would say these 14 senior communities in Brick, I've talked to them probably 8 times over the past year. Everybody is concerned about one thing: lawsuits. It's not just us. It's not just this meeting. As a board member, we have a fiduciary responsibility to watch after the assets of our association and our members. And if there's a chance of us doing something and getting sued, and then having to go to our members and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry, everybody has to kick in $1,000, to pay for this lawsuit. That to me is, it's not the prudent thing to do.
No, but I've lived in a community for 26 years and I never heard of one lawsuit.
Really? Over the past 10 or 12 years, I will tell you, here in Seaview Village, and we're a relatively small outfit, we have had one lawsuit over the past 10 or 12 years. Someone from the village here sued us because we did not have handicap access to our clubhouse. So the board members had to go to, I believe it was Newark, New Jersey. They were dragged into court. They fought this lawsuit, and we lost that lawsuit, and we had to pay $19,000 to have the repairs done on the clubhouse. So they had a special assessment at that time. I don't know how much it was per person, but whatever that $19,000 plus court costs work out to. So, you know, it does happen, and it has happened here to us in Seaview Village.
Okay, but now saying that about the handicap, as soon as that all, you know, it's like everything else, that should have been provided. I wouldn't have sued, but you should have thought of that.
Well, see, the village was built in 1983, 1986, and at that time, you know, it was not on people's minds at that point.
Okay, well, as I said, I'm sorry. I just, yes.
I would just like to comment on a couple points that you made, not all of them, because that's why the board set up this meeting to discuss and get everyone's opinion on, and also possible direction for the whole community. As you know, John said, the board's responsibility is a fiduciary responsibility for the entire complex. Very difficult, and this decision is extremely difficult. I also want to make a second point. You mentioned that Pinnacle, Jeff Dyer, which is me, said that the pool would be closed in January. I never said that because I never said that because it's not my decision. It's a board decision.
I was at that
and
meeting.
ultimately a board decision. Please let me finish. And the third point, you know, as far as the lawyer, Stephen Kotsis, there is not one lawyer in the state of New Jersey that is recommending anything different than what Stephen laid out. Not one lawyer, right? Not one lawyer. We're part of Community Association Institute. We work with and receive notices from many major law firms, and everything concerning pools is exactly what Stephen laid out. So, but again, you know, there's some options here that the board will decide and look at, and you know, see if there's, you know, as much as like Stephen laid out a couple things to limit possible liability, and then the board will make a decision, obviously, with the finances in, you know, with the financial cost in mind, and to see how it could fit in the budget or fit in the expense and fit in what the revenue is at this point in time.
Excuse me. So at this point, you're saying that the community has nothing to do with it, even though we had this meeting and everything was presented legally. It's all up to the board to decide what they want to do.
Well, yes, you know, you elect the board members so that we can use our best discretion and our fiduciary good sense to manage the assets of Seaview Village. That is, you know, the way it works. So that is our system. And that is the way every homeowner association works.
Hi, John. This is Jane. I'd like to just make a couple of comments. First of all, thank you for being the president and everyone else on the board for doing a good job. It's very trying times for all of us. And I, for one, would love to have the pool open this year. I understand about the liability and everything that's involved. I think a letter should be sent home to all the residents explaining what's going on, and if and when the pool does open up, a waiver should be sent out and signed, so the board and the village itself does not have to be sued. And then maybe we can only have, say, from like you say, 12 to 4, 12 to 5 open. Of course, bring your own chairs. Only the people that live in the village and maybe nobody else. But we really should try to open the pool if we can, because we need the pool, especially the elderly need to get out, socialize a little bit. I understand if you don't want to open up the clubhouse, maybe we can get a, you know, a porta-john or whatever, but I'm really hoping that you'll take into consideration everyone's feelings on this matter and hopefully make the right decision for everyone that's involved.
You know, I appreciate that, Jane. And, you know, I don't know if you are a regular attendee or have been a regular attendee of the pool, but if you look here at the board members, some of the board members are at that pool every day.
Oh, I know that. I know that. I mean,
so there's nobody that wants the pool open more than the board members.
I know. I work and I have the month of August off, and I'm pretty much, I go there every day to the pool, even on the weekends in July. Yeah, it's an important social element of the whole community. It brings people together. And I think people need that because they've been cooped up for over a year.
I agree 100%.
But, and also, people, I mean, not you in general, but people have to realize that people are smart. People are going to make the right choices in situations like this. So people do go to the pool. They know that they have to social distance. They know they have to do this. They know they have to do that. And if they don't for some reason, then you kick them out so they don't ruin it for everybody else. But mostly people know what to do. They know how to make the right choice. And we have to hopefully give people the benefit of the doubt with things.
I don't disagree, but, we have some members, some residents here, 80 and 90-year-olds who, through no fault of their own, got COVID. Sure, they know the right thing to do. They know that whenever they went out, they wore a mask, and who knows where they got it. I have no clue. Maybe the Stop and Shop or, somewhere like that. But, people walk around with COVID and they have no idea that they have it. So, there's no surefire thing that we can say, okay, we're doing this. We would love to open the pool. But personally, I am leaning toward, if we can get tort immunity, I will explore the option if we get tort immunity. Without that, I can't in good conscience say, that's a good idea, let's open the pool. The other problem is, as Bob Alperin mentioned, only about, I would say, less than 100 people, less than a third of the people here that live in Seaview Village have ever gone to the pool. I go there, we would go there regularly on Saturdays when they had the cafe, and I absolutely love that. There's a group of people that they would, cook on the grill. They'd have hamburgers and hot dogs and sausage every weekend. And, I really did enjoy that. But I never saw more than, let's say, 50 people at one time, and never more than 100 total people at the pool. The other 250, I never saw at the pool ever. And those people, they pay the same fee that you and I do who use the pool, but they never go to the pool. So, we have to keep in mind everybody's welfare. Are there any other questions?
John, this is Hank Lay.
Hey, Hank.
Couple of questions about a tort immunity as a bylaw amendment. That would need to be voted on by the membership and need a 50% vote to pass?
No, to change our bylaws, we need more than 2/3 of the residents to vote on that. So based on that, the state of New Jersey enacted a law a few years ago that's called the Radburn Law. And with the Radburn Law, we have to send out the information regarding what we intend with this particular amendment. And this amendment will be to give tort immunity to Seaview Village, which prohibits our members from suing the association. And if more than 10% of the people in the village object to it, then it does not pass. If less than 10% of the people object to that amendment, then it passes and becomes a part of our bylaws.
Thank you. That was good clarification. My second question, a tort amendment, how sweeping would that be as regarding possible negligence and protection for the village? How sweeping would a tort amendment be?
I'll defer to our attorney in this, but Stephen, I'll tell you that some of the board members wanted the tort amendment to be exclusive to COVID and its variants only. Is that something that's doable?
I think we could try to do that, but let me say this. If you're going to when you're going to go through all the compliance you have to go through, either via Radburn or via live meeting to adopt a bylaw amendment, that's a lot of time and energy and money spent with the postage and the balloting, et cetera. To just do it for COVID is going to be a lot of work for a very narrow result. So I just want to raise that issue with you.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because I would hate to put the board on a spot and say, okay, we're going to have Stephen do something. Which are we doing, this or the other? How much additional would it cost us for you to do one, let's call it an amendment, just for regular tort exclusion as you normally do, and then one for just COVID-19 and its variants. I mean, would it just be a matter of printing up the same thing and then writing in COVID-19 and its variants?
Yeah, it would just be two different paragraphs in an otherwise identical document.
Okay, so it's not going to cost us
But,
an
but
extra.
let me at the risk of stating the obvious, what if the next pandemic isn't a coronavirus? What if it's MRSA or SARS or something? I mean,
get you.
just understand how narrow this amendment's going to be if you limit it to COVID.
Mhm. Can you write up an amendment for both of those cases, one COVID related and one just a blanket, not COVID related, and then we could decide as a board which one we wanted to submit to, under the Radburn law changes?
Yes.
Okay. Board, let me ask you, would you be inclined to have Peter do that? Have Stephen do that? Bets, would you be okay with that, Betsy?
I don't see her.
That's going on rather long. I can imagine some of us, falling asleep here.
John, I have a question.
Yeah,
Jim.
Go ahead, Jim. Go with your question right now.
The thing is okay, the pool is great, and I understand everybody wants to go there, but how enjoyable is it going to be when you have to wear a mask in the sun that's probably going to leave a mark across your face because you have to wear this stupid mask? It's just ridiculous to go through all this trouble. I would love to go to the pool, but to wear with all these rules, putting a mask, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I just can't see people enjoying themselves. Buy a bunch of beach badges and give them out to the community to go down to the beach where you don't have to wear a mask. It's just crazy. And I really don't want to pay no more money for dues or anything else because people really ain't happy with the snow removal. They're not happy with the grass cutters. And now we don't have a pool. So it's just totally, to me, it just seems ridiculous. You're not even going to enjoy yourself over there. It really.
John,
Yes.
I know everybody hates it when you say in Florida, this is what we do, but just as a point of information, we have 18 pools where I live, and all the pools are open. In my particular pool, it's one of the small ones. We only allow 13 people in the water at one time. We have tables all around. There's chairs for 2 people, but now it's supposed to be 4, but they haven't added the extra chairs.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are there, more or less police, because we're afraid of being shut down. Because if the guard comes in and finds out that we're not doing what we're supposed to, they'll shut us down until tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way it is. And we have the normal cleaners that normally clean everything. They come around a couple of times during the afternoon and wipe everything down. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what we do. That's unless, the CDC is different in Florida than it is up here.
Yeah.
This is the way it is.
Yeah, I appreciate your input on that, and that is very interesting. But one of the big problems here is the requirements imposed by the New Jersey Department of Health. That is the big, let's say, the big boogeyman here. And as I mentioned to Stephen, well, what if we don't do this? And what if we try to cheat a little bit and we don't really provide training on teaching people how to clean? Those are the problem. The New Jersey Department of Health, all those regulations I read from the beginning, that's almost.
I know. I was astounded at all of that. I mean, we don't have that at all down there.
Yeah.
And yet, there's no such thing as suing if you get COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody had to sign a waiver. There was nothing like that in there.
And things
we have 7,858 apartments
yeah,
and
wow.
18 pools. So
Yeah.
it's quite a complex.
The decision would be much easier if we did not have to deal with all the regulations imposed by the New Jersey Department of Health, because we could just say, okay, let's get the tort agreement. We don't have to do anything special. We're not going to get sued because, a volunteer forgot to wipe down that railing there. It's no problem. But that is not the case here in Jersey, unfortunately.
John?
Yes.
John, John, it's
Yes.
Nancy. I thought the guidelines now were if you are outdoors and you are vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask. Wouldn't that carry through at the pool also?
I think that's probably the case. However, you know, the rules that we're going, those rules were changed, I think, just yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and every day something changes.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that by the time the court is in place, and if we have a waiver, everyone signs a waiver when they attend the pool, and they know what the guidelines are, I would think it wouldn't be a case where you had to sit in the sun with a mask on if you are vaccinated and the others are, or whatever, or maybe not vaccinated. I'm not sure what, but I thought that was the newest guideline, that you could be outdoors and not have to wear a mask. In which case,
I just wanted to make one other point, which I started to say. We have to walk around with a mask, but if you're sitting at the table or you're sitting on your lounge, you do not have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
But if you get up to go to the bathroom, you got to put your mask on.
Well,
And
you
you
know,
don't have to wear it in the water either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nancy, those regulations were changed by the state yesterday or the day before, I can't recall. And there's a section in the New Jersey Department of Health for community pools. And the website has not changed as of this morning. So I don't, you know, I really don't know. I mean, I would not just take it upon myself and just say, okay, well, they changed it to outdoors, so we're outdoors, so we're not doing that. You know, I mean, it's just the time when someone would,
Yeah.
Hey, you didn't have force me.
I just feel, if we move forward with the tort amendment and also initiate a waiver, I mean, this isn't going to fall into place, really, it sounds like, until July anyway, by the time this court is in place. I think we're going to see a lot of changes, and it'd be really a shame to not open the pool at all for the entire summer if we really could. And I'd be willing to volunteer to be an ambassador and make sure people are doing what they need to do or taking temperatures. I have no problem with that. And I'm sure many other people feel the same way. I think we should move forward with the tort and see what, by July, I think things are going to be very different.
I think that is what we're talking about
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to I don't know if I want to take the time now or at the end, but board members, are you in favor of having Stephen proceed with the tort?
I'm not a voting member, but I am.
Yeah, I'm asking this of the board members.
Yeah.
The board members, Anthony, what do you think? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, Anthony says yes. I say yes. I would like Stephen to go ahead and do the tort for just COVID and the variants, and for the regular tort that he would do for all inclusive. So Anthony says yes, John says yes. Bob, do you have an opinion on that? Bob? How about Ed Varga? Do you have, you want the attorney to go ahead and draw up that tort agreement? You want Stephen to go ahead and draw up that tort agreement? All right, looks like there's only two of us maybe here left on this call. I'm not sure.
There's 37 people here. You might be on just the first page. I don't know. Steve is still on.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Stephen or the board from the members?
Hello, this is Nancy. I'm in favor of the pool opening, but I have a question. Maybe you could answer it. The Seaview Village Tidings used to post where all our money went to every month, where the money was spent. It doesn't show that anymore. Can you tell me why they took it out of the tidings?
Well, used to ask Mary Ann to send me a copy of the the monthly budget. And this past month, Jeff did send me a copy of that monthly budget. But I've been so busy with this other stuff, particularly the pool, taking up a lot of my extra time here. I have not put it in the tidings for this month.
Okay, but it will be back? It will be coming back?
As long as Jeff can continue to send me the monthly updates,
Okay.
I will try to get it in.
Yeah,
Because-
we will send the updates monthly. What we do is we reconcile all the accounts first, and then we send it out to the board. So yeah, that will continue on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Okay, because it stopped before Mary Ann left, and then we were wondering why it stopped, and now, we want to know if it's going to pick up so we know where our money is being spent that we're putting out every month. Aside from the...
I do the tidings, and when Mary Ann would send me a copy of the finance report, I would put it in there. She was not always, she did not send it to me every month.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from our members?
Yes, John.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I don't have the letter, the email that I had sent, but in that I wanted to know the attorney's opinion on flags, the difference between flags and signs, because like I had stated, the bylaw states that signs need to be regulated, but not flags. So I'd like to know, is there a legal difference?
Well, Stephen, I think he's referring to, we had a situation where there were a lot of political signs out. And when we had our meeting in January, we had asked everybody to please remove their signs because in fact, our bylaws state that signs are not permitted. And everyone removed their signs, but we had 6 or 7 people who had flags that had vote for this candidate or vote for that candidate or support this candidate or that candidate. And I did go to a legal website and look up the definition of a sign. And it seemed from what it said there at that website, those flags endorsing one candidate or another did qualify as a sign. So I think that's what Al is asking. Is that correct, Al?
Yes, thank you.
The case law here in New Jersey says you can regulate, I'm talking about homeowner associations. You can regulate signs and flags, but if it's the nature of the message that creates 2 different standards. There's one standard for just generic signs and or flags, and that can be something that the board can resolve by rulemaking if it's unclear in your current rules, and include or exclude flags from the prohibition. Having said that, if it's a political sign, that's political speech is the most protected level of free speech. So if it's during a campaign, you're going to have to allow some political signage during the campaign period up to and including the date of election. If it's post-election, generally the associations that I've represented that have had restrictions on signage have said you have X number of days to take the signs down at or after the election date. Once the election is over, it is my opinion that the association can compel everyone to take down signs even if they're political. And that follows the rules of public elections as well. You know, when you see these campaign signs all over the place on these highway mediums and that sort of thing, the rules that govern that require the campaigns to remove those signs so many days after the election. And to me, whether it's a flag or a sign is academic. If it's got a message on it, I just had one a year ago where there were no messages on the flags, and the question was whether you can put up, a giant flag, let's say, with a harvest moon on it or a rainbow or whatever, and it was a beachfront association, and they elected to limit the size of the flags because of the wind. They didn't eliminate the flags, but they eliminated the size, and those were flags with no messages on them.
And I will say something just to add to what Stephen said, is most towns, for any election, the town usually has an ordinance, and I don't know what it is in Brick, where you have to take down any political signs in a certain amount of time. So usually the town has an ordinance also, detailing them.
And these flags were up well into January. I think we had our meeting January 15th or so, and these flags were still being flown at that time, so.
So then there is a difference, or I'm a little confused. There is no difference between a flag and a sign, or there is?
What I'm telling you is that question doesn't interpret the law. That doesn't track the law. The law follows whether you can regulate signage and the content of the messaging. Political signage gets more slack than other types of signage in homeowners association law. But even a political sign can be compelled to be taken down once the election is over. If you've got political signage up after an election is over, the association has the power to order it removed.
Well, I mean, we're talking flags.
These flags, Stephen.
You talk about like an American flag?
No, this
No,
flag,
not American,
flag said vote for Trump. The others said support Biden, vote for Biden. They were Biden or Trump signs, telling people to vote for, support for.
My point is that the bylaw specifically mentions signage, nothing about flags. So if you want to put a Mickey Mouse flag or a marijuana or a BLM flag up, I don't see any wording in the bylaws that excludes flags.
If the flag has a message on it, it's effectively a sign.
Okay.
And that was my reasoning for asking these people to remove their flags. Yeah, I had lots of complaints on both sides of the political spectrum. You need to call this one, tell them to remove that sign. You need to call that one, tell them to remove their sign, blah, blah, blah. And so I did some research there. We talked it over with the board. And I believe I sent a letter out to each of these 7 or 8 people instructing them to please remove their political sign, their political flag. And if they don't do that within 10 days, I would turn it over to our attorney to handle it.
Okay, then the other thing I wanted to know was, I had mentioned in that email that the pet adoption center up on the corner of Beaverson and Brick Boulevard have been, well, their dog walkers have been coming into our community with some pretty big violent dogs. And it's been honestly a bit threatening when I see that. Should we talk to them and keep them from allowing these people to come into the community, because we may be allowing ourselves to be set up for a liability in some way if one of these dogs were to attack?
I could answer that.
I'll leave that to Stephen, or I don't know who jumped in there, but go ahead.
It's Bob Froelich. They are not allowed to come in here.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They don't come in here. Those dogs are owned by people on F Street, D Street. That place is not allowed to bring their dogs in here.
No, Bob, honestly, I've seen them come in from Hooper. They have to have the shirt on that says the Animal Adoption Center. Well, they're not. They'd actually come in. I've seen a group of 4 or 5 of them coming with some pretty nasty dogs and some pretty nasty looking people too.
The group of 4 or 5 live around the corner. They live on D Street. I live here. I know exactly what I'm seeing. I know what I'm seeing.
Yeah, well, I've seen it too.
And if you call the center up, they'll tell you they do not walk in here.
All right.
Are there any other questions from any members for Stephen or otherwise?
Yeah, I got a question about that pool. I think hours should be till 6, like they were, because there's a lot of people at work that like to use that pool in the afternoon.
Yeah, who's is this Bob?
Yeah, this is Bob again.
Hey, Bob. The only problem with that, Bob, we got a contract from Candlewood, and apparently they are only offering lifeguard services from noon to 4. I don't know about, what the charges would be if we said, listen, we want lifeguard services from noon to 6. I have no idea what that would cost.
Yeah, well, I think we should do that.
Hey, Bob, so I take it from that, you are in favor of having Stephen do the tort agreement and have him do it both ways, as a normal tort agreement and as a COVID-19 agreement? Anthony said
To
yes
do
to
it-
that. I said yes to that. Are you in favor?
I say yes, but for all pandemics.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
If you're going to go for pandemics, but not for all types of claims, you may want to say for all declared emergencies rather than just pandemics.
Are we in a declared emergency now, Stephen?
You are at the moment, yes, under the governor's orders and under the federal orders. I mean, the board can thrash that out and get back to me. I'm not asking for an instant decision. I'm just making a suggestion.
Good. We will discuss it here after the fact, and then probably tomorrow, the next day, we'll get back to you with what we want you to do on that.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions from the membership? No? Okay. In that case, let's see, this is about everything I want. Members, do you have anything else that you want to bring up under new business or anything?
You hear me, John?
I can, yes.
Oh, okay. I think if we don't open up the pool, there's going to be a mass murder here because every other pool is opening. And we're going to be alone in this.
Yeah, not every other pool is open. In fact, of the 14 pools here in Brick, 6 of them are open. Of the 20 in the Holiday City Coalition, 0 of them are open. So, I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of associations. The majority of them, in fact, are not open right now. But I mean, I get calls too. People want to open the pool. Unfortunately, we get calls from the people who want to open the pool, but the people who are quiet, maybe they're 90 years old, they're not so vociferous, they never say, don't open the pool. I mean, they just sit at home and they tend to their own business. But, we're all getting calls. Yes, please open the pool. I want you to open the pool. Everybody has their pool open and, it's not true. It's not true. But, as I say, the board, we will talk later on today and tomorrow, and we'll ask our attorney to do something. And then when we're ready to make a decision there, we'll probably have another meeting, and maybe it'll be outside. We'll have to consider things, and we'll go from there.
Are they going to open the clubhouse?
We have no plans to open the clubhouse right now because of, right now there's a lot of cleaning that has to be done. I don't know of too many other associations that have their clubhouse open because I think Lions Head South, they are trying to get monitors to work in their weight room because you have to have people come in to clean after each time somebody else uses the equipment. So we'd have to have somebody there almost on a full-time basis. So there are some additional problems with opening the clubhouse. But, we'll just try to go one step at a time and first talk about the pool.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or anything?
I just got one more thing for Al.
Okay, go
A
ahead.
lot of those dogs are coming from those new apartments, and they've had a lot of drug busts in there. So
Wow.
these people are around. They're walking around. So just to let you know.
That Wawa too. There's a lot of drug busts over there too.
True. That is very true.
Yeah.
Okay.
John,
Yes.
Clay again.
Yes, Hank.
There's a group of us that always enjoyed playing dominoes in the clubhouse.
Uh-huh.
We've all had our vaccines, which means we are permitted to get together.
Uh-huh.
Is there a way we can access the domino set so that we can meet in a private location and use the domino set?
Yeah, why not?
Beth, you have no problem with that?
I have no problem with that. In fact, I was at the clubhouse this morning and I had Stanley Steamer come and give us an estimate how to spray down and sanitize every place in the clubhouse, floors, ceilings, walls, and everything. So they're going to give me a written estimate.
Excellent, excellent.
But yeah, I figured just in case we're going to open it, we'll know what we're dealing with.
Bets, do you know where the dominoes are kept in the clubhouse?
No, but I was just there. I can get it if they know where it is.
Okay, Hank, if you can let Betsy know where the dominoes are kept. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem if you went over to Betsy's or she delivered them to you and you made arrangements for your domino people to come to your home and play. I would have no problem with that.
Right, right.
Any other?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to have to log out.
Stephen,
Everybody
I thank you.
stay safe.
Very good, Stephen. I thank you so much for your expertise and time. You have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Very good. And Betsy, you'll get that, you'll converse with Hank and get that domino set?
Right.
Fantastic.
Okay, Betsy, thank you.
You're welcome, Hank.
Marilyn and I are leaving for a 1-week vacation tomorrow, but when I get back, I'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take care of it.
Board members, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion to?
John, one more thing.
Yes, yes.
Marguerite here. I'm in the neighborhood and I need some strong men to move 2 pieces of furniture. Anybody interested, let me know.
Good luck getting volunteers. I have been asking for
I
volunteers.
didn't ask for a volunteer. I didn't ask for a volunteer.
Maybe that's the secret, yes. Okay.
I'm not asking for a volunteer.
Very good.
I
Okay.
was waiting for the lawn guys to come. When are they coming?
Don't know. It's a
Here a
surprise.
few minutes ago, I heard all the
They're
noise.
here right now.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Thank you so much. Thank you, John, for everything. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, guys. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll be in touch. Board members will be talking soon, probably later this afternoon and somewhat tomorrow. We'll get some things straightened out so we can put Stephen to work.
Yeah.
Thank you much, everybody. You have a good day. I'm signing off.
Okay.
Be safe.
Safe, everyone.
Hello? Hello?